Step inside, the curtains drawn. The secrets of magic go on and on. With Steve Valentine, your host tonight, a master magician, the spotlight's bright.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? No, do you want to be? Because I know an excellent magic school that could help you. It's not Hogwarts, but it's almost as cool. It's called Magic on the Go. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. Magic on the Go, magiconthego.com. Over 900 videos teaching you everything you need to know about magic, not just how the trick works, but how the trick works. We do a lot of stuff on performance, presentation to get you to think outside the box.
Magic on the go, and you can be anywhere, anywhere, with Magic on the go, with Steve Valentine, with Magic on the go.
In this episode, I'm going to be interviewing Ash Jax, also was previously known as Ash McCready. Ash is a very, very interesting person. I met her when I initially started working with the Illusionists. She was assistant choreographer, assistant director, and she's worked her way up through the organization. She's produced now her own Cirque shows, and she is also the creative director of the brand new Now You See Me live show that's going to be premiering at the end of December at the Sydney Opera House. Going to be a spectacular production. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited for her. And we're going to be talking about her career, really, really good advice, and just kind of, and more than that, just how to be creative, how to approach something from a beautiful creative space and to go with the flow of life. So that's what it's all about. So yeah, so we'll be talking with Ash, but first it's time for this.
Steve reviews magic tricks. Steve reviews magic tricks. Now, give it up.
So in the magic trick reviews, I'm doing something a little bit different. What I'm doing is I'm reviewing tricks from way back in the past as if they are available now. Because as you know, I really believe that there's been a lot of magic that's been put out and has fallen by the wayside that could be very useful to magicians. And so I just want to tell you about this trick. I remember reading about this in a magazine when I was a kid. And because this was in the 80s that this thing came out, and always wanting a set. And then I found a set in the secondhand bin. And this is it. Clones. What are clones, I hear you cry? If you don't know what a clone is by now, seriously, what multiverse are you living in? The clones, this was an original, I mean, when this came out, the idea of a clone was a new thing. I think they just cloned the sheep. What was the sheep's name? Was it Betty, Lily, something like that?
Dolly!
Anyway, they cloned a sheep, which was kind of amazing. But this is also a trick that is, in my opinion, one of the best reboots for the sponge balls. Now, we all know that sponge balls are one of for people who are listening who don't know what I'm talking about, let me just explain what I mean by sponge balls. Sponge balls is a trick with these little sponge rubber balls, and they vanish from one hand and appear in the other. I'm looking around because I usually have a set with me, but they vanish from the one hand, they appear in the other, they multiply in your hands. And how do you make it an interesting presentation? I mean, really, the sponge ball trick, you don't have to. The trick just kind of works on its own. But if you are going to want to be original and different, you might want to pick yourself up a set of clones. If you were back in the 80s, this was a trick that was put out by Patrick Martin. And I want to show you, these are the instructions, because this was back in the day when your instructions were printed. There was no video. There was no link. You have to learn how to do it yourself and put your own spin on the moves. And these are the clones. And this is what I love about it. So what they did was they gave, you know how like in Sponge Rabbits, people love sponge rabbits. It's another way of doing sponge balls, because they love the idea that you've personified them, that you've given them a name, you've made them living creatures that you can then somehow relate to and create personality with. Well, these are clones. Aren't they cute? Aren't they just, oh my gosh, look at these guys. They're so cute.
Now, for those of you who are not watching this on YouTube, who are just listening to the podcast, hello, we love you. I just want to describe to you what these clones look like. So they are orange, about an inch. They're orange sponge balls. They're about 1.5 inches in diameter. They have two little googly eyes that are glued onto them, and a bulbous red nose. They are the cutest things ever.
So what it enables you to do when you do the 1, 2, 3, 4, if you know what I'm talking about, when you do the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing, is you can put the ball between your fingers like this, so that when you do the move, you're then able to, it just, you don't even have to use a tabletop at that point. So you can clip them by the nose. There's a lot of gags that come with this, similar to the rabbits, where you're like, this is Bill, this is Alice. Wait a minute. No, that's Bill, and this is Alice. And you can say, and now they've changed places, because this is now Alice and this is now Bill. So you can do silly jokes like that. When they multiply at the end, obviously you get lots of tiny little mini clones that are so cute with little faces on them. And this is lovely. The problem, you're going to lose a lot of these. That's the only thing. And but I do love these. I think I might go and make myself up a few more sets of these, because I do love the idea of the personality. Imagine putting these in your cups and balls instead of like the regular balls or something along those lines. But clones. So the idea is that you're going to clone it initially from yourself. You've done a little clone yourself. So, and this is one of the best parts of it, is that in the eyedrop, there's a little eyedropper, you see, and this comes with it as well. It's got a little orange serum in it, and that orange serum is designed to just kind of, there you go. And it just kind of drops out and becomes the clone. Isn't that great? So this, I think, is one of the best parts of it. It's a syringe or eyedropper that enables you, when you hold your hand into a fist and you want to take it out, you just take it out like this in the syringe, and then you put it in the other person's hand. It just kind of goes like that. So this is the best. Oh my God, this is so great. Someone did clones to me when I was a kid, and I remember now, and I remember the syringe made the whole routine. It gives you some, and you can use it as a magic wand. It gives you a reason to do certain sneaky things that we magicians do. So as a trick, I highly recommend it. It's available from none of your magic dealers. You're going to have to try and find a set, or I guess nowadays you could make one for yourself. Just googly eyes, glue them on, find a glue with some sponge ball noses, and go for it. And I think there's a lot of possibility, a lot of personality, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. In fact, I think it says here, put personality into magic with your very own clones. So imagine if you were the kind of person who had a very distinctive feature. What if you could actually make these clones look a little bit, I mean, these are very cute, but look a little bit like you, maybe with glasses or a moustache or something like that. You could make the moustache change places. I could jump from one to the other. I think it's a lot of possibilities. So clones, I give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's fantastic. The only reason I give it a 9 is because you originally only got 2 adult clones, and then you got like a whole bunch of little ones. I think it would have been good to give us 4 at least of these guys in order to play with. Also, now that we're talking about modern day technology, you don't have to call them clones. You could call them stem cells. Maybe there's a stem cell routine that you could do. You could say, you could take the little syringe. Can I get a little stem cell from the back of it, and just like touch the back of their head or their ear or something with permission, and then you can take it out in the syringe. So anyway, that was clones.
Steve reviews magic tricks. Steve reviews magic tricks. Now, when you
Had you ever heard about that? I know, right? Great magic from the past that we must not forget. All right, let's get into the interview.
Magicians only, where the secrets start to show. Wealth and class in every tale, honest and funny, we lift the veil.
So how are you, first of all? You're super busy. I guess we should start with why you're in New Zealand right now.
Yes, I am currently in Tauranga on the North Island of New Zealand, and because I have a show called Cirque BonBon. It's been going for about 5 years now, and it's on its 3rd city leg of a 3-city tour in New Zealand.
That's amazing.
Sold out in this city too, so woohoo, go BonBon.
That's so great. I love it. It's been a while since I've seen you. Let me think.
Years.
It was pre-COVID, and I had come to Reno.
Yes.
I'd come to Reno originally in order, because Simon and I were talking. I did a whole episode, by the way, of this podcast already on the Illusionists, I should tell you.
And what I did was over the lockdown, I actually recorded a bunch of thoughts about the experience, and which got my lockdown beard and the whole thing, and then so I edited it into a couple episodes of the podcast. So the people who are listening to the podcast, they're kind of well aware of partially my experience, which is all very positive. We should just explain to everyone who's listening. I should explain to you, right? So first of all, everyone, this is Ash. Now, are you Ash Jax now? Are you still going with McCready? What's the?
I'm married as a Jax now, but I've just kept McCready in brackets because I had a couple of people say, who? McCready.
Yeah.
So I'm transitioning into officially Ash Jax.
Okay, so yeah, because that was you had a great COVID, didn't you? You fell in love and got
busy
married.
COVID.
Yeah.
2 children.
Two
dog,
children, very busy.
house,
Wait, a lot of spare time.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. It's crazy.
So much spare time.
I got locked up at a farm with my Russian in-laws, so that was a whole different experience.
That's another episode.
It will be. It'll be a television series.
Wow.
But so we met. So initially we met with the Illusionists. So everyone knows. I was talking with Simon Painter, and he said, "Come to the Illusionists." And I said, "I don't know, because it's a show that is an ensemble, which was kind of a lot of what I want to talk about here. It was such a different experience for me." And so they were like, well, we'll try you out. Come out to Reno. There's a show going on in Reno, and we'll slot you into a couple of slots and see if anything works, see if we click." And you were kind of directing, choreographing. What was your official position at that point with the organization?
At that point, I would have been either resident or associate director in that land.
In that world, yeah. And
in that world, yeah.
Yes, and I remember it was really fun to kind of go into the show and see how we could make it work. But I learned a lot of stuff. But this isn't about me. This is about you. So what I want to talk about, this podcast is about, it's about magic, but a lot of people listen who aren't magicians. It's just because I kind of emphasize the crazy world of being an entertainer. And so it's not about the tricks. I want it to be about the lifestyle, the performance, the politics, the crazy stories. And I want to inspire.
A few of those.
There's so many of those, right? And some we can't tell, some we can. And just kind of the world and the life, because being, for me, with the Illusionists on my side of it was very, we as magicians are very solitary beasts. But when you go into an ensemble, which you're used to, right, because of all of the dancing and all of those kinds of shows, it's a whole different stretch. How did you get into working with the Illusionists? First of all, how did that whole thing happen? And was it terrifying, the idea of working with magicians?
Of course not. No, I love working with magicians. I love working with all entertainers. Magicians are special, but the magic moment that happens throughout their act is just so powerful and so unique. And you got one chance to make that magic moment happen. So I've learned to respect the craft that leads into that boom moment in their act. So that's just firstly off the top of my head, what I have to say, what I love about magic. And how I got into it, well, I was a dancer prior directing, and I met the brilliant Neil Dorwood, who is one of the creators of the Illusionists, along with Simon Painter. I was dancing for them in one of their shows, and I saw how brilliant he worked. His mind, he knew everything, what light was going on, what color it should be, where the dancers should be, what was happening backstage, on stage, between the stage. He just knew everything, and it was fascinating to me. So I watched him like a hawk every single day. And eventually I sort of said, "Can I assist you here?" I would just sort of jump in each time and say, "Oh, can I help?" Or "I'll get that for you." Or just sort of slid in, and I kind of became his unofficial assistant, I would say, in my opinion. I just watched him. I thought he was so incredibly talented. And one day he couldn't come and direct one of our shows, and I was sort of his unofficial shadow, basically. And they rang me and said, "Hey, Neil's not available. Can you come and direct one of our shows?" And I said, "Of course." And I was 24 at the time, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm sure if I look back on it now, it would be awful.
But you
awful
also had
directing.
that naivety of youth where we just dive in and just jump in without thinking.
for
right?
it.
That's what we do
Yeah.
when we're in our 20s. All right, so you're working with the illusionists, you're working with these magicians, and you're having to deal with, at least, again, like I said, these solitary beasts, these magicians who are used to working on their own with their acts, and that's kind of how they're focused. But you've got to kind of stretch their vision to a show, because when we worked together, we did the Reno thing, and then we actually did a tour right before COVID, and actually I think COVID shut it down early. But we worked together for like a week, 2 weeks before the show started on a number of things on the staging of the show. And that's when I learned about kind of the theory behind the show, which was kind of like, do your best bits, nothing over 8 to 10 minutes. What comes before is super important to what comes next. And how the show was a very fluid thing. Can you explain that to everyone, kind of like how fluid, even when you're touring, things would change?
Oh yeah. So, you nailed it. We would pick everyone's 3, 4, maybe 5 best spots, sometimes only 2 of their best spots. And this way we structured the show was that it was sort of everyone's highlight best spots. So like the best of these 5 performers.
Right.
And, the best way I can kind of describe it is that, everybody, I'm going to call upon a probably poor example because I don't think I have the characters right, but you'll get what I mean.
Yes.
Everybody loves Batman, right? But everybody loves the Avengers.
Yes.
So it's like, we know that individually they're superhero rock stars, but then put them together, it's like this super party of awesome
super group.
artists.
Yeah. Fantastic Four, kind of the Fantastic Five. And
the Illusionists got referred to as like the Avengers of magic, like quite a few times, because it was these solo artists with their best spots. So it just works. You get the best of the best in a 2-hour show.
Was it easy to get? What was your experience getting the magicians in line with the concept? The show wasn't necessarily about them as a whole, because you're playing a character, right? The idea you're not really yourself. So, which is kind of the brilliance of the marketing, which made it so scalable, and why it was having tours all over the world. How did magicians react to that you worked with, react to that kind of concept of, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm being called the showman or something? Because I know how I felt about it. That was a conversation I had with Simon, but what did you discover?
Well, how did you feel about the showman?
Well, I turn it around on me, why don't you? Initially my conversation with Simon was, I've spent my whole career trying to build a name for myself. Why would I want to do something where I'm buried in a group? That was kind of the initial conversation, but Simon Painter is a very smart guy, and he's very persuasive. And we were having a conversation. I remember, because I was driving north. I was in the car for a couple of hours driving up to the mountains of Canada. And during that conversation, he kind of explained the whole thing to me, and it made a lot of sense. And then we started negotiating, and on the drive, which took about 2 hours, and it was brilliant. It was like a masterclass in negotiation, because he'd move the needle a little bit, and then that would be all that he could do, and then we chat for a bit. What, maybe, all right, I could just, and it was so brilliant. I was enjoying the conversation so much, because he's a master negotiator. And then so finally we're like, what, let's do this and find out whether, first of all, if we enjoy working together, and we might hate each other. I might hate it, I might love it, I don't know. But in the end, for me, put the ego aside and be part of a group and do something I've never done before, and kind of like learn how something like this is put together and staged and goes on the road. I mean, I'd never done I've toured with theater shows before, small plays and musicals, but never with something on that scale. So so I just kind of felt like it was a very
gear change.
It was.
Look, firstly, on Simon, he is a master negotiator. I have had the pleasure of being able to sit in the room with him over the last 10, 15 years, working alongside him, behind him, next to him, with him. And that's some kind of magic in itself that probably deserves its own podcast episode as well.
I don't know if he'd want to give away all those secrets, though. That's the only thing. I don't know if he would, but yeah.
Oh, it's a good laugh. And then on the group, well, it depends on everyone's journeys, and I won't name names, but of course there were most of the artists who were super fine with being titled something that fit the brand of the Illusionists. But of course, there were definitely a few fights of who was going to be positioned in the front of that V. I won't name names, but there were a couple of poster fights.
Okay, can we talk about the poster for a second? So, okay,
Sure, go for
Simon said to me,
"Get your popcorn out, everyone."
let's just, all right, everyone, yes, it's the popcorn moment. No, I'm not going to call out too many people. I'm not going to call out anybody, really. The thing Simon told me initially, we went on we did a fly to Mexico to pitch one of his shows to this billionaire in Mexico. And that's when I really learned a lot about the organization. But he said it starts with the poster. You start with an idea, and then you create the poster to create the image, and then you build the show to the poster. And that was kind of how he pitched it, how he sold it. And so I know that the poster was the very first thing with this V of magicians. But yes, who is in the front? Even though it's an ensemble, that kind of gives the impression they're the star of the show, right? And
yes.
And so it would be, so both shows that I did, I would have loved to have been in the middle. That would have been great. And for me,
you not?
Never, no. And it would have made, and I thought at the time it would have made sense given my TV and film exposure. But, as Simon kept saying, it's not about that because we're not using your name. You're the showman. I'm like, yeah, okay. So, so the discussions backstage and the bitching and the moaning about who's in the center of and I gave up in the end. I was just like, I'm not gonna, no. In the end, it was Jonathan who I think was at the center of the first tour that I did.
That's right. And I think that was his first time being front center of the poster.
Yeah.
So it was probably a nice feeling for him because he'd been on so many tours and done Sydney Opera House and Broadway. And
exactly.
Never got to the center, and then he did. So
it was okay with me. I'm like, I don't have to be on the front center of the poster, but yes, there was that vibe. And I think on the second tour I did, Kevin James, and he's like OG, right? He should be in the middle,
right,
in the front. So,
yes.
But it's funny, isn't it? Kind of the little things that people get stuck on.
Well, it's funny because I think it's more of a conversation on the tour bus after than it is in the general public.
Yes.
So with the placement. So, but it's definitely, there were a couple of previous agent negotiations about must be front center of the poster. I was like, oh, this is such a interesting conversation.
Yeah, showbiz. Yeah. I mean, it's total showbiz. I mean, we do it all the time. I lost a gig once with Disney, and I don't think I've ever talked about this. So I used it whenever I negotiate. I always give my lawyer like the power to walk away because we can't get kind of relatively what we want. And they always say, right, the best negotiation is when both sides are unhappy. But I remember there was this. I'd done a bunch of stuff for Disney, and I did this a voice for Tinkerbell, the series of Tinkerbell movies, animated movies.
Okay.
And then they came in with the second one, and they were like, we also, as well as Minister of Spring, I think it was the character, we also want you to play one of the dads. And I was like, great, this is going to be fantastic. So then we get into negotiations, and they're like, but the credits at the end, you're just going to be amongst like 30 other voice actors. And my agent and I were like, we wanted proper credit. Just all you had to do was to put, Minister of Spring, so-and-so, Steve Valentine. Totally. Even it doesn't have to be at the front, we're just at the end. That's all we wanted, just not to be in a bunch of voices. And they stuck on that. And so my agent did the walkaway thing, and they never came back. And I think that cost me thousands of dollars, on that moment. But you have to, in negotiation, you have to decide if you're willing to
walk away or not, for sure.
But to walk away. But so when you started working with magicians and you're like working their act, oh no, hang on a minute, I want to stick with this just for a second. All right, so just as far as the tour bus goes, I would say one of the things that I noticed which disappointed me was in theater, when I've done theater tours, there's an amazing camaraderie that you feel with the actors and the dancers and everybody, the crew. There's this kind of feeling of family, right? You know what I mean? It's like everyone's hanging out, and and it gets, if it's a longer tour, maybe it gets a little bitchy and it gets a little, Lord of the Flies. But at the beginning, at least, it feels that way. And I never felt with the Illusionists that there was a cohesive group. And I don't know if that's in the culture. That's the job of whoever the production manager is touring, bringing everyone together, making that connection, because it helps on stage too. If you have real bonding, Did you notice that? Because you've worked with a lot of tours.
You are bang on with that, and it is really interesting. And echoing what you said, it is a bit disappointing. Yeah, because when I work with our circus people, it's a family. Everyone's helping one another, looking after one another's kids. They're getting
Yes,
food and
amazing,
warming
right.
up and teaching each other the tricks and training with one another. Whereas magic is like, it's a secret. Don't come in here. Don't open my door during my preset. It's very, I guess that comes back to your earlier comment about it being, magicians are, what was the word you used? You said they're a bit kind of
Solitary,
isolated,
solitary beasts. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that transcends from it's the people on stage who kind of really set the tone on tour most of the time. And if they're sort of solitary beings working on their stuff on their own, or, as we all know, the secret presets and things like that, that sort of separates that togetherness doesn't really land. And to be honest, that has been on all the magic shows I've worked on.
Really?
Sadly. Yeah. I mean, some less than others, but overall it's been a bit separated.
Do you feel
Whereas
like
in
there's
circus,
also a thing
everyone's-
of like who gets a bigger response? Like, let's say somebody's getting a great response on a routine, that there's like a jealousy that pops in there, or a resentment. I remember I had a routine that surprisingly, I didn't think it was going to go well at all. It was my card and wallet routine, and the card
Yes.
shark routine. And when Simon's like, I want you to do that in the show, I'm like, but it's close-up magic on stage. And he was like, no,
it's
we're going to have
great.
screens, we're going to have camera, it's going to be
I
great.
remember.
And I remember going out and doing it for the first time, and it just, it killed. And,
great.
nobody,
Yeah.
thank you. No, but nobody was more surprised than me. And it was learning that.
Really?
Yeah, because I'd never done it
You
to camera.
slayed. I remember in Reno, it was like everyone was like keeled over laughing. I couldn't get you off stage. You stayed on stage so long. I was like, come on.
That has been a problem, which we'll discuss. I talked about that, and I was very honest in me going overtime and talking about the importance of like keeping to time because of money more than anything else, and structure and flow. but when I did that routine and I made the decision to work the camera as opposed to the audience, and that was like the big change. Was I treated it like a television show, but it was beautiful because the idea of just being able to raise your eyebrow and get a reaction from a crowd of 5,000 is amazing.
Yes.
But I do remember doing that act earlier in the show, and then Simon came and he watched the show and he goes, no, this is a later in the show routine. We need to make that. He goes, this is like a 9 out of 10 or something. I think it's got like this score system, right? He goes, that's an 8 out of 10.
Yes.
That's a 9 out of 10. And he goes, and you kind of, and so when act positions get changed, that creates a resentment within whoever was there, like say second to closing has now been moved earlier or even had a bit taken out. And you feel like, I didn't structure this. This wasn't my idea. I kind of felt that there was a little bit of that. Oh, gosh, it was a very difficult moment for me. But the camaraderie, which wasn't there, which was sad, I was really brought up actually at one point in rehearsals when we were rehearsing in, was it Springfield?
Yes, Ohio.
Ohio. And I remember saying on stage, guys, it's not a competition. And then one of the acts said, oh, yes, it is. And I think you know who that was, but he goes, yeah, oh yes it is. And I was like, oh shit, this isn't going to be what I thought, but I had a good time anyway. It was
good.
Did you ever come across those kinds of frictions where you guys had to take drastic action with the cast, or sit them down, or kind of replace someone? Did it ever get that bad?
It got terrible. We had cast withholding to go on stage, wouldn't go on stage because of something that they wanted in either their contract or in the order of the show or the poster lineup. Yeah, it got bad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Guys, listen. Okay, so anyone who's listening to this who's a magician, or even if any kind of entertainment, do your negotiation. And even if you end up signing that contract, that's your contract. This is what I've always thought when I talk to actors and I'm doing a TV show and they're bitching about it. I'm like, you signed the contract. You knew what you were getting. And just accept that that's what it is. It's
I'm wondering if I'm going to get a text from that person if they're listening and say, "Hey."
Well, we're not live. That's the good news. I will be editing this. So yes, but maybe you might. I mean, that means they have to be aware of who they were in the cast. So that would be telling too. But anyway, so it's, oh my gosh. So this is the thing. So, magicians are famous for having these kind of egos, and I felt, when you said, how did I feel about doing the show? For me, I needed to put the ego aside. And I had a great time working with you on the snow, by the way. I have video of that.
I remember I was being the little child. You were fantastic at that. That's actually popped up, and I remember texting you about the Elf on the Shelf because that must have just. So for people who are listening,
Yes.
Steve and I worked on the Illusionist Christmas holiday version of the Illusionists, and we were interjecting all of the Christmas themes throughout the show. I didn't have children at the time and had no idea what Elf on the Shelf was, and Steve introduced me to Elf on the Shelf. So now every Christmas with my children, when that elf comes out, I think of Steve Valentine.
Oh, I should get a piece. Yes, come on, Elf on the Shelf. You know you want to pay me. They must have made so much money.
Oh, so much money. And we were practicing the snow trick, and you were beautiful at it. You were poetic. You delivered the magic sensationally, and it was just a beautiful end to the show. You absolutely nailed it. I loved that moment with you.
Thank you. It was
great.
really fun to work it and to actually, because we as magicians, we don't work with directors nearly enough. As an actor, I'm used to it. But as a magician, I think I worked with Chipper Lowell on my one-man show, and then I worked with Chris Philpott on a couple of pieces here and there. But I've never had anybody direct me in a magic show, and it's such an interesting experience. And it was cool.
It is really interesting, and how different performers receive that relationship is really interesting. I think from my perspective, I'm always trying to give the performance the best it can be from the perspective of the audience. Right. And I have sat and watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Illusionist shows. On one tour, I clocked 230 Illusionist shows. I watched from start to finish.
Yikes.
Across like 60 different cities in the United States. And the most beautiful thing about that journey was that I sat with so many different types of people and listened to them react to the same act 230 times. And there was difference and nuance between the audience of what they enjoyed and what they laughed at harder or what they were shocked by more. So I wish that, and a lot of performers and magicians do lean into it, but there are the few that aren't they don't want to hear those notes or the ideas or the help. And I think as a director, definitely from my perspective, it's about the audience feeling and embracing your performance the best they can. And it's, breaking that performer audience and bringing that magic together that directors try and inject into the performance. So, it'd be nice.
That's brilliant, because do you feel like the magicians take it personally? Like they take it as a criticism as opposed to the idea that you're just trying to make it better.
And in defense of the magician, obviously, when you're doing your craft, you know your trick, you know your craft, or you've created or invented this trick. So you're the expert on that, not me. So, but what I like to bring to the party is the extra feeling that everyone out here watching you do that is experiencing. So if you can blend that with your director nicely and find an extra layer of magic, like go for it. Don't be scared to try it.
Oh, I love it. I think, let's talk about editing for a second, because I think that's something I noticed with you and with all of the Illusionists is emphasizing the sanding down of, until you've got everything is like super tight and everything works, and you take out the extraneous stuff, and we don't really need that. And you can talk to us a little bit about how you approach that when you were working with a lot of these magicians, like how what you would see. I don't know how can I ask this probably, but you know what I'm saying? It's like how the importance of editing. There's just in a routine.
I think coming into that point with a performer, you have to be really delicate, because you're essentially chopping their act that they have worked so hard on and they have loved and breathed and bled into. So, first and foremost, we're always very mindful of saying, okay, this is great, but let's do this part of it. And so some people go, yeah, great, we love that. And others kind of go, well, hang on, I've got 9 minutes and all minutes are great. It's like, well, but we only want 6. And then sometimes, with show run times and, intervals, and if there's 5 or 6 or 7 performers, we have to share the minutes around anyway. So it kind of comes down to a numbers game, really. Yeah. However, some people need a cup of coffee and a sit down and or a glass of wine to talk the notes over, whereas others you can just give them in the backstage and say, hey, we've got to cut 2 minutes out, work it out. And they go, okay. And others, it's like, you've got to have a glass of wine, or you can just leave it here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. the housekeeping for the hotels just turned up to give me
Oh, we
some
should
fresh
have them
towels.
clean
Thank
up
you.
behind you. That would be interesting for people to
I,
see.
yeah,
Who knows what they
vacuuming in the
peel
background.
up, buying bottles off the floor. But no, okay, but that's great because that's really important. There's a book called to the Director by Michael Chekhov, who's this wonderful
Okay.
theater actor director,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
he wrote, and his whole attitude was that every actor is different, and if you want to communicate with an actor, you have to figure out how to communicate with them, because
Yes.
every actor is different, right? People are receivers. You have to. Some people you have to try and make it out like it's their idea. You know.
Yes.
I know that Simon would just come in and go, "It's too long. Take off 2 minutes," or that was kind of, it was very direct, which I always appreciate anyway. But
Yeah. He's also the big boss. You kind of like, he's the one paying the bills and booking you. So if
right?
you don't do what he
yeah,
says,
you don't want to
you're
fight
out.
that. You don't want to fight that. We don't want to
No.
fight anyway. I think the important.
No.
I had my initial issues were not understanding how important the specific length of each segment was. That was something I needed to learn when I showed up, because I would come off. I go on and do say the chocolate box routine, and it would. I remember in Washington D.C. we got this old lady on stage, Mrs. B, and she was hilarious. And I mean, like every time I put her in position on one side of the stage, and then I go to the other side, and when I looked over, she followed me around, and it was unbelievable. And like 15 minutes later, it's supposed to be like a 10-minute. I get off stage. And I'm like, that was great. You know, I'm high because it was a great set, and everyone's like giving me the piss from the business side of it. Yeah, the stage manager. That's
so
the hard
funny.
part, is when you're a magician, you are your own boss. When you're working in a theater tour, you have a series of bosses. There's director, there's producer, there's also stage manager, the person who's like really responsible for running this thing to time. And
Yes.
that was one of the biggest lessons for me.
Yes. And it's not like, I remember experiencing your fluidity of
It's all right. You can be honest. I've been very open about it, so it's okay.
I love it. But in your defense, the audience would start to rise, and then you'd ad lib, and they'd rise, and you'd ad lib, and then it was just this thunderous laughter echoing through the theater. And I was just thinking, like, you can't blame the guy. He's crushing it. You got to give him the minutes.
It's a fine line.
I was always like, yeah, he ran over, but it was fabulous. So
right. I guess it's worse if you run over and it dies, like we had that.
yeah, well, that'd be a different conversation. Like, Steve, you got it.
We need to, we're cutting you out of the show. So that was an amazing experience. So tell us, what's the craziest? You've done all of these shows and all of these tours. You've worked with all of these magicians. What has been the kind of some of your craziest memories from doing those tours?
What rating is this podcast?
Oh, it's if you don't have a sense of humor, don't listen. That's the.
Oh my goodness, there are so many stories. I'm just like, where do I begin? All right, I'll tell you one of the craziest stories that happened on tour, but it wasn't for a magic show. It was for one of the circus shows for Simon's company.
Okay. Right.
So we were in China on tour, and the Chinese hadn't paid the second installment of the show.
Okay.
And we were at intermission. We were about 3 weeks into the tour at this point, and we got to intermission of the show, and our technical director came backstage and says, no one's going on stage. We were like, what do you mean? Like, no one's going on stage. They haven't paid. Like, you're not going on stage. We were doing arenas, and there was like 8,000 Chinese people packed out, sold out in the arena waiting for us. 15 minutes hits, 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. The crowd starts booing and starts throwing things onto the stage. And we're like, they're going to come back and get us. They're like, we're not going on stage. They haven't paid. 45 minutes hit. The crowd is like rioting that we're not on stage. Then the Chinese promoter turned up with 2 briefcases filled with $200,000 in cash and was like, go on stage. We were like, okay. They just like turned up with briefcases of cash. We were like, what is going on here? And the show went on.
That is so gangster.
And then we had to figure out how to get the money out of the country.
That's the problem with cash, right? I had a gig once where I got like a $20,000 tip in Saudi Arabia, and I had to like figure out just how to get. I ended up telling customs and giving them a story, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But holy crap, yeah, you kind of and that's when you realize you're in a foreign country, and anything could happen at that point. That's nuts. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it was crazy.
And were you guys
Yeah.
like, I just want to get on, we'll just go on stage, we'll just get this one done. Did you guys feel like we just need to get out there and do it? Or were you like, this is too dangerous now, we can't even step on stage?
I mean, the crowd was super happy when we got back on stage.
Okay.
But I think I was in shock. Even telling the story now feels like it's out of a film. It was just so
Yeah.
gangster.
I
It was
see the
wild.
scene. I can see it. All right, so look, you did the Illusionists. This was great. We were doing the tour in 2019. I
Yes.
noticed that the two guys who went to the gym all the time kept getting sick. And then, of course, COVID hit. This was really interesting kind of leading into it. Then you
Yes.
go back to Australia. And
Australia?
I promise I won't
Oh,
do
yeah.
my really bad Australian accent because it's not good. And I sound more New Zealand because I keep going up at the end. But I won't do
yeah.
that. That's the end of that. I do have a lot of relatives out there, so we'll get out there at some point and visit. But anyway, you go back to Australia. You meet your hubby.
Tom.
Right?
Tom.
Yeah. Did you
10
guys
out of
meet
10
on the
Tom.
beach? How did you guys meet?
We met through a dating app because
Seriously?
the world was shut down. You couldn't go out. There was nothing around, like the clubs, the bars, the restaurants, the coffee shops, everything was shut down. So you couldn't go anywhere. And it was at that time where even outside, if you had to wear the mask outside, even if you were in open air.
Sure.
I think Australia, where I was from in Australia, was not as crazy, but we still were shut down. So we met on a dating app and we were blocks from one another. Like we were in the same suburb.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you find that because I wouldn't know what dating was like during COVID, but you show up, you got your masks on, and then comes that moment when you take the mask off because it is so different, isn't it? Exactly, that's it. It's like you said, you fall in love with somebody's eyes. You fall in love with their eyes, and it's oh my gosh, and yeah, what do you do? Yeah, could you just put the mask back on for me? We can have dinner.
Yeah, just keep it on. Yeah, thank you.
So, how long did you guys date before you got married?
Oh my goodness. Well, we were dating for probably 4 or 5 months. And then he said, "You're the one. I love you. Do you want to have a baby?" And I said, "Sure." By that stage, I was 31. So I had dated, I had traveled the world. I kind of knew what I did and didn't want in a person. And he's just fantastic. And I said, sure, why not? So we had a baby, and whilst I was pregnant with our first child, that's when he proposed. And then our baby arrived, we got married, and then we had a second baby. We had 2 under 2 and a dog and all that stuff.
Suddenly you've got the family and life, and you're finding yourself going like, what happened, right? Because one minute you're in America with magic shows, and the next minute you're in Australia with an entire fully formed family.
Yeah, it's a big gear change. Yeah.
I know when I moved to Canada, one minute I was in LA and doing all the stuff I wanted to do. Then we moved to Canada, then COVID hit, and then I found myself in a farm with the Russian in-laws, cleaning out chicken coops and chopping down trees, and going like, what happened to my life? This is so weird.
What happened?
I am so happy for you. This is where you are, because you've really made it work over there. Now, this is what I want to get into now, because not only did you do you did the Illusionists, but you created, and now did you create Cirque BonBon with Simon, or is this something you created yourself because you must have learned a lot from working with these guys?
Yeah, I did. So I created BonBon on my own. I have a creative partner in Australia who she kind of handles lots of the choreography, and she's greatly creative and artistic. So we joined forces together.
Yep.
And it was in the thick of the pandemic when everything was shut down. And there was a tiny little festival in this beautiful beach town near where I live called Noosa. And it's a sensational spot. And they had a little arts festival, and they said, "We want a Cirque show." And it was like, a Cirque show? In the middle of COVID, everything shut down. But then I rang a couple of my friends who all of these crazy, amazing artists had come back to Australia because everything was shut down. So we had this little pool of incredible circus artists who obviously were not employed because there were no shows going on. Yeah. And they were just sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring. So I got this incredible cast together who were just in our backyard. Basically, we put this little show on. We made no money for the first one because we were just happy to be doing something.
Sure.
And the show was received really well. And then we did a couple of shows. It closed because it was just a short little weekend season.
Yes.
And I was like, I was trying to sell it and I was having no success. And I was ringing Simon actually because he mentored me through the whole thing. And
Oh,
I
what
said,
an amazing thing to have Simon mentoring you. That must have been.
he was.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He really was. I'd like pick up the phone and ask him a question. He'd be like, right, this is what I would do. And he would go, tack, tack, tack. I was like, cool. Okay, I'm going to come back to you. And I'd do the thing and it would just like, it'd go. Like,
Amazing.
oh. Next one, I'm like, hey, I'm stuck. Can you help me? And he's like, of course. And he would just guide me through the whole process. And eventually, I just decided to just put the money down and produce the show by myself and I was at that stage, I was actually 36 weeks pregnant with my first child. And I thought to myself, if this fucks up, I'll just have a baby and forget it ever happened.
So you literally had that kind of deadline where you were like, okay, this is it. This is me. Either I'm going to be a producer of live entertainment or I'm going to go and just be a mom.
Yeah. And they're both great. They're both great.
Of course.
paths,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
but sometimes it's that all or nothing feeling.
Yeah.
People say that all the time where they go like, okay, I feel like I was about to quit. I feel like I was about to, if this doesn't work, I'm done. There's something about that seems to bring everything to the forefront, right? Like it makes everything happen.
It does. And it's wildly passionate in those moments too. So it was just like, do or die here. It was like this path, the green pill or the blue pill.
Take them both.
Take them both. Well, I did. I bloody took both those pills because the show went well and I had the baby. Then I had another baby and more shows. So
from Cirque BonBon, so what was the number one thing you learned as a producer, producing the live entertainment, would you say?
Trust Simon Painter.
Yeah. Ask Simon. Okay. I don't know if he'll interview. I don't know if I can get him on camera, but I hope so. I haven't asked him, but I
reckon he will. I was on the phone to him just before this. I was on a meeting with him for Now You See Me because I'm his creative director for Now You See Me Live that opens at Sydney Opera House this December.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. We'll get to that because that's like the grand finale of what I want to talk to you about. Yeah, amazing. Because
for sure he will.
That was on the agenda for me after before COVID we were talking about it was going to be that tour and then going to do Now You See Me because we were talking because I remember the emails saying like, you know how you like to do more magic than just like 3 routines. This show has the opportunity for you to do like a whole bunch of routines, and then it didn't happen. But obviously, but we'll get to Now You See Me. All right, so you do Cirque BonBon. Now you're a bona fide producer and director as well. And then recently you created a show called Cirque Alice. And I should explain to everyone, this is not Cirque du Soleil. One of the things I learned was nobody can copyright the term Cirque, right? It's like copywriting the word circus. So anybody can do it, which is great because it gives you a kind of a weight. It tells people kind of what the show is as far as it's a little more artistic than just kind of your regular circus. It's got some kind of vibe to it. But anyway, right. So then you decide to do Cirque Alice. Why don't you tell everybody about that? Because you've been using some magicians in that too.
Oh, this is such a beautiful show. So this kind of loops back to your poster story with Simon. Yeah. Simon, as I was saying, Simon and I were talking a lot over the life of Cirque BonBon because it's been 5 years of that show, which birthed during COVID. And Simon, held my hand through a lot of that producing journey. And then it was probably a year and a half ago to this date, maybe 2 years ago to this date, he sent me a poster and it was a hat that said Cirque Alice. I said, what do you think? And I said, what are you brewing? And he said, we should make a show called Cirque Alice. What do you think? I said, I'm in. Anything you do, I'm in. Like, let's go. And he's like, great. All right, let's get started. It's like, okay. And then within a couple of months, we kind of came up with the creative. Obviously, it's inspired by Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll's book. So it's the journey of Alice through Wonderland, but interjected with circus acts that kind of bring the characters of Alice in Wonderland to life through ludicrous, crazy acrobatics and costuming and wild thoughts and color and just beauty and fun and loveliness and talent. And it's we've got classical music that's interjected throughout the whole show, and it's just a beautiful journey, beautiful people, beautiful costumes, and wild acrobatics. So between Kirsty Painter, Simon, myself, the three of us concocted the show. We have an amazing choreographer, Dane Bates from the UK, who has choreographed it just sensationally. Musicians from Norway who've composed the score. Angela Aaron did the costumes in collaboration with Siam Costumes in Thailand. And we have these larger than life flowers. We have these crazy card costumes for the card march in the Queen's land throughout the story, for those who are familiar with the Alice in Wonderland story. Sure. And the show, it's just been sensational. So we opened in my hometown of Brisbane. So that was amazing.
Hometown girl
I was like
does good.
Driving to work. Yeah, hometown girl does good. And then we're almost at the end of our Singapore season now, which is almost sold out as well. So it's been received so well, and it's a beautiful show. Yeah,
I think you get the benefit of a story everyone knows, which is a blessing and a curse, right? Because if you don't do it well, then people get kind of offended by what you did with the story. But I've seen the pictures and I've seen the stuff that you've posted. It looks gorgeous. It looks. It's almost like this is what Cirque was built for, you know?
Oh, that's so nice. It was actually my first time being the creative director for Simon and Tim, where I could create autonomously, where I wasn't under someone else. I wasn't listening. I wasn't executing someone else's dreams. I was like, my dreams were tabled with the group.
And so did they say to you like, okay, you just don't think about budget, don't think about anything, just come up with the wildest ideas and we'll see what we can make work? Was it kind of that kind of freedom when they were talking about this?
The text from Simon was like, dream as big as you can and we'll go from there. It's like, okay.
That's a t-shirt.
Everybody wants to receive that text, right?
That's a t-shirt.
Teach me, this is so nice. Yeah, it is.
Dream as big as you can and go from there. I might steal that.
Dream as big as you can, and we'll go from there.
Now you also added, obviously it's a very magical story. So you had to have not just you had to have magical effects in there, I imagine. You've got the cat who appears and disappears. Yeah. How did you approach kind of doing magic where it wasn't overtly a magician?
So the cat was brought to life through puppets, and we had Unit 9 puppets in the UK who they did Warhorse, they did 1903. So our Cheshire cat, all of the limbs and eyes and teeth and ears are folded into these like old school suitcases, and the dancers sort of choreograph around with these suitcases. Then all of a sudden they all come together and this giant cat pops out of the suitcases. So it's sort of like this big appearance out of these you wouldn't expect out of these suitcases. The team in the UK, the puppet team, were sensational. They kind of birthed this idea of this cat appearing out of nowhere in pieces to form this one like giant cat. And they crushed it. It was awesome. It was a big collaborative team of creatives on it, from the puppets to the music to the costumes to all of it. So it was just like a very nice, very family group together. It felt so together. Everyone just poured so much love and passion into it, and just everyone loved everyone's ideas, and we would bounce off each other's ideas. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. It's hard to go from there because it was just so lovely. One of those special moments. Yeah.
You'll never forget.
Magicians only, where the secrets start to show.
That story that you told about being creative, I would love for any magician listening to this to apply that, dream big and see where you go from there. When you've got your magic, you're using puppeteering, you're using special effects, costumes, lighting, all of these things in order to make magic happen. But you also needed a Mad Hatter, which to me sounds like the perfect magic character. So whose idea was it to bring in Hobson?
It probably was Simon's idea, but we had tossed around quite a few names for Mad Hatter. You know, there's always the sort of hit list of people who we know of 10 out of 10s, right? And I have a feeling Simon must have been like, let's bring Hobson in for it. And he was, Hobson's a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10.
Every time. Yeah.
And he was so funny. It was fantastic. And then moving into Singapore, we had Dizzy, who you know Dizzy.
He's amazing. I didn't know he did it. Oh, that's great.
So he's our Mad Hatter right now, running in Singapore. And different to Hobson, he brought a totally different layer because Dizzy's so physical. Yeah. So it was a nice it was nice to see the two Mad Hatters in their own sort of realm, which kind of comes back to what you were saying about the magicians being their person, right? You know, Hobson's not going to do backflips on stage, obviously.
No.
But he had this sort of very, you know, Hobson, grand, fabulous comedy, laughing out loud, but very, very stylized and cool, you know, how he is, and just very in control. Whereas Dizzy has this like erratic, acrobatic,
Kinetic.
high energy,
Yes.
keel over laughter. So it was just really nice to see the difference in them. And Paul DeBeck is coming to be our Mad Hatter in Sydney
Brilliant.
for Cirque Alice. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes. And I also just rang Raymond Crowe because I thought he has some really funky acts that could be kind of cool.
Oh my
for Mad
gosh,
Hatter
Ray
as
would be
well.
amazing. Can create through the shadows when you were deciding to use a magician for this, was there talk about just using casting an actor and then teaching them things, or was that on the table? Did you always want to hire a magician for this part?
We've always lent into a magician for this part because I think the blend of circus and magic is really nice when you do it well.
Yes.
And it just, Alice in Wonderland leans into that so easily. And the trickster and the tricks and the magic and the comedy with this Mad Hatter character, it just seems like a bit of an alley-oop for that one, in my opinion.
Yeah. So how much of their material are they doing because obviously it has now, even more than the Illusionists, what they do kind of has to fit the vibe of everything that you're doing, right? I mean, are you repainting props in order to make it fit the color scheme? Like how much of it is customized for the show?
Yes. So, you know, as what Simon does a lot, he really tries to work with what the artist has. So we built Hobson a new costume that was aligned with his persona and his physique. And he did his acts, but we worked with him with changing some of the script and some of his blocking in and out and around our Wonderland per se. But the bulk of the act is Hobson's material. And then same with Dizzy, he had sort of his main, you know, like his sword swallowing and the big balloon. So he did some of his key parts that we know land so well. And we interjected some of the Alice, sort of sprinkled some Alice magic over it as well.
Well, congratulations on again producing something that just sounds and looks so gorgeous. I can't wait to see it when you start touring in the Americas at some point.
Or maybe you'll come and be a Mad Hatter for us soon.
I'll do it. I'll do it. Oh, of course.
Sold. Simon.
There you go, guys. You just saw me get a job. This whole podcast has been about me getting a gig. No. Okay, I have ideas for the Mad Hatter. We could do like a whole Queen of Hearts thing. We'll talk.
Yes.
No, but I mean the hat. I know that it's funny, Dave Williamson and I, at one point, we were working on the same routine. We found out we were talking and we were both working.
Really?
Yes, we both decided organically on our own to go back to the old eggs from hat routine that was from back in the early 1900s, where you have a hat and you have kids on stage and you're pulling the eggs out and you're giving it to the kid to hold and the eggs are breaking on the stage, but you've got like hundreds of eggs coming out and the kids' reactions are just delightful. It's just a very expensive trick to do right now. So I'm not so keen.
Oh my God. Eggs in Australia right now are so expensive. So they're expensive in Canada
in the world. It's what everyone's talking about. Like chickens are walking around with like this, you know, like you want the eggs. But it's interesting because I was reading about David Devant, who became famous for that trick in the early 1900s. And obviously in the war, eggs were difficult to get. So he legendarily had fake eggs created out of metal that he filled with glycerin. And so he would produce them and they would fall and break. They would just break open on the floor, but he could reuse them. And that was, yeah.
There you go.
There you go. So there's a way of doing it where it's not going to cost as much. But definitely the hat. You see, there was this is interesting because you've inspired my imagination for a second.
I love this.
Is an idea for Mark II. There was a guy who did a routine called Devil from the Hat. His name was Hearts, and his whole act was a bare stage with a couple of tables and things. And he would borrow a top hat from somebody in the audience. Obviously, you can't do that now, although it'd be kind of funny. Does anybody have a top hat? Thank you, sir. We haven't set anything up, have we? It'd be kind of and then he would pull out of that hat for the next like 10, 15 minutes. So many things. Like he would fill the stage, cups, clocks, skulls, handkerchiefs, and he was loading and producing and loading, and it was I have the whole routine in writing. Anyway,
Wow.
at some point maybe
Okay.
we'll talk.
Yes.
I'd love to be part
We
of
should.
something like that.
We really should talk.
Okay.
True talk.
All right.
I said here. You've got
All
me
right.
recorded.
You guys heard it here first.
Exactly.
I'm really excited about Cirque Alice for you. And now you see me live. This is the how many incarnations? Because there have been earlier incarnations of the show, right?
Yes, there was the first Now You See Me live back in pre-COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
And it had a tour in China, and then it had plans to tour, as you know, after that. But then COVID happened, so it ended there. So this is the Now You See Me live round 2.
Right.
And it's because Now You See Me, Now You Don't, the movie part 3 is coming out in a couple of weeks. The Lionsgate film.
Yeah.
So we're putting the live stage version in parallel with the movie.
Wow, that's
So
a deadline, right? That's a deadline.
It's a deadline.
You've got to be ready by
Yeah.
the time the movie premieres in order to take advantage of all that promotion,
Yeah.
of course. And how different is the story to the original tour? Because you've got 2 or 3 movies now to pick kind of moments and characters from. How did you guys approach it?
So it's the live stage version is inspired by the movie. So it's not a narration, it's not an adaptation, it's not a storyline of it, but it's pretty much like picture all the best magic parts from the movie put onto the live stage at one time. So we've kind of it's like if you were to imagine the Horsemen were doing a live show for you to come see. That's what you're going to come see.
So you're going to actually come see the Horsemen do their show. That's
exactly.
Are you guys doing the water tank escape? Is that in there?
I'm just trying to think what I should tell you. Well, you know who the Horsemen are, so yeah, I guess I can tell you. We're not going to have Andrew Basso in the show without doing the water tank, right?
There you go. Right? Yes. It's already been on social media. It's not a secret. I've seen the poster.
It is no secret. And it's in the trailer, of course, and in the trailer.
I am so respectful of anyone who does a water tank and the previous episode before this one comes out, the previous episode I talked about doing an episode of House where I did the upside down water tank escape, and the big thing is doing it upside down because the pressure on your head and the blood rushing to your head and being able to hold your breath with all that is so hard. So that anyone can do that on a nightly. It's so my total respect to Andrew for pulling that off, because it's also the staging of it. I mean, it's one thing to go on stage and do card tricks, but when you have a show that has so many big effects, there's so much to think about. I remember when Jonathan was doing his gravel escape. There's so much that goes into that, from the rigging to where you're going to get the gravel from, to how you've got to bring that water in. Okay, does Andrew want the water warmed to a certain temperature, or is he?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Well, we naturally take care of him, right? So it's set to a nice performing temperature. It's not like freezing cold water from the Sydney Harbour.
I mean,
what a story. Yeah, it's all temperatured and it's as comfortable as one can be. Upside down, 4 minutes underwater, holding their breath, picking locks, right?
Yeah. I don't know how you do it. I imagine rehearsals. You guys have the show locked in yet? Are you still massaging? Like, what can you tell us? What can you reveal here? Tell us stuff about it. Yeah,
some secret stuff. Okay,
whatever you can.
I'm going to bring up my creative doc just so I can refer to my notes.
Okay.
Because we're most of the show is locked in at this point. We are about 7-8 weeks away from opening night. We've been working on the show for, about a year.
Yes.
We've obviously got our cast locked in, as you would have seen. And some of the acts that you will see sprinkled through the teaser will be there. Yes. We're working on some new magic that's being built currently in Europe, which I'm really excited about, which I don't want to share too much on, but we are working on some big disappearing tricks that look sensational, and it's going to be the premiere of them in Sydney Opera House ever, the first time ever. So, and that's been worked on for months and months and months, and we've been getting all of the sort of updates out of Europe from these. So this is super exciting for our horsemen to disappear into thin air for the people of Sydney Opera House. So that's what I'm just chomping at the bit to get into the studio and start playing with the magic.
Yes.
And then another, I think I can share this part. I think this is really, really exciting. The lovely Jonathan Goodwin is teaching Mr. Andrew Basso his signature Scorpion act, where he put, the act.
Yes.
And I
Well,
woke
tell
up
everyone what
the other
happens,
day.
because it's intense.
Oh gosh, I don't even know if my description's going to do Sir Jonathan Goodwin the justice, because he's just so bloody brilliant.
He is.
It's one of my favorite acts of his. This act slayed everywhere. And I remember working with him in Sydney Opera House on the Illusionists, probably back in 2019, I'd say, just before the pandemic again.
Yes.
And it was sold out at the Sydney Opera House. Jonathan gets up. He comes out and he talks about Jeopardy, and he has this great script about Jeopardy, and any act's great, but it needs a Jeopardy. And he gets this woman up and he says, "You're going to be my Jeopardy." And he says, "Slap me across the face." And the woman's like, "I'm not going to slap you across the face." He's like, "Do it, slap me." And she's like, "No." And then she eventually gets the courage and she slaps him for real. There's no faking. There's no planned.
Yep.
Slaps Jonathan across the face, and I'm, as a director, getting to watch acts like this because the punter is different every night. It's one of my favorite things to watch.
Yeah.
This girl slaps him across the face. And then we have our magical assistants who take her off stage into the wings so she can't see what's happening. Jonathan then explains to the audience, unbeknownst to her, she's not the Jeopardy. This is. And he pulls a scorpion, a real life scorpion, out of a box, and he puts it in his mouth, tapes up his mouth, handcuffs himself behind his back. The woman comes back out and the timer is set, and she has to slap him across the face as hard as she can, as many as she can, while he escapes from the
Every
shackles.
10 seconds or something, right? It's something like that.
Something like that. Every
Yeah.
time the bell dings, and it's just that the audience know the scorpion's there in his mouth, but obviously she doesn't.
It doesn't.
And at the end, once he escapes, he rips off the tape and spews out this scorpion in her hands, and she screams bloody
Freaks
murder on the
Out
stage.
every night.
And the audience is just in shock. Some are laughing, some are screaming. It's just this insane act. So the lovely Jonathan Goodwin is teaching our lovely escapologist and pseudo daredevil Andrew Basso
Yes.
this scorpion act. So I had the pleasure, I woke up the other morning in Australia and it was nighttime in Europe, and I get this video of Andrew being like, "Good morning," putting this massive scorpion in his mouth. It was the first thing that I woke up to, seeing Basso swallow mouth a scorpion. And I was like, well, I'm happy to see it's moving along.
Good for
Let's
Andrew.
go.
Good for Andrew. That's all I can say. I mean, the good news is Australia's got some of the most dangerous animals in the planet. So you've got, plenty of different things to choose from if they decide not to do scorpions. But, I remember that show specifically because of there's so many, it's such a brilliant act. And if you can apply this to other things too, is the idea that the audience knows something that a spectator on stage doesn't.
Yes.
And
yes.
the paper balls over the head is a classic example of a trick that works that way. But
yes.
but I love that there's so much emotional. It transcends the stunt. I mean, the fact that he's escaping out of handcuffs isn't even that important. It's he's getting slapped. And everyone's like, really? Because sometimes the women would really get into it once he gave them permission.
Really get into it.
Right?
You're like, oh gosh, poor Jonathan.
And then I know he did say he got bitten a few times here and there doing
a bit numb in the face, he said.
Yeah, but my memory on that on tour, which was interesting, was when we got to DC, we couldn't do it. Because scorpions are not allowed in the city limits in Washington, D.C. Okay. I guess they're afraid they're going to pop them into the White House sewage system or something. I don't know. But we were told that he wasn't even allowed to have it in his hotel room. It had to be kept outside of Washington.
Yeah, Australia's signed off on the scorpions. So we know we've got some that are coming in, waiting for Andrew Basso in his dressing room upon arrival to the Sydney Opera House.
That's
amazing.
Welcome.
Here are your scorpions.
Remember they got those lollipops? Have you seen those lollipops that have little tiny scorpions in them?
Oh, awful. Yuck. I know what you're talking about. And it's just vile.
Yeah, you could sell those. They could be merch. I'm just saying.
That is a very good idea. All right, I'll give you that. You can take that line I said earlier and I'll take the merch idea.
Okay.
Scorpion lollipops can be merchandise.
All right. Take the merch idea. Yeah. Great. So you're opening what date?
December 19 in Australia. Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys too. Best of luck, break a leg, and all of that good stuff. As we wind, this has been lovely talking to you, and
So nice.
it's so great to catch up, and hopefully I'll see you in Australia at some point. You never know.
Or on Cirque Alice.
It's yes, okay, all right, it's a deal. I know it'll be great. My daughter, who you met, she's now 14.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah,
Wow.
she was 3 or 4 she was 7 or 8 when I pulled her on stage for the snow trick. That was one of the best memories of my life. We did that in Pittsburgh.
Aw.
She came up, pretended she was
so
a kid from the
nice.
audience, and I could barely hold it together, emotionally. That was amazing.
Magicians only, where the secrets start to show.
Winding down, you've worked with all of these magicians over the years, probably more than most people, I would imagine. You've seen
Maybe,
all
maybe.
of these acts. What is some of the best advice? I'm going to throw you right in the deep end here. How can we help?
Here we go.
How can we help magicians from your perspective as a non-magician? Although I think you're an honorary magician at this point, but right. But I think as a non-magician, but as an artist, as a director, as a producer, as a writer and creator, what is the advice that we can give magicians today in order to improve the work that they do, but also when they want to approach kind of doing their own show?
I always think in any show, whether it's with magicians, circus artists, actors, singers, your show should exceed the expectations of the audience. And if you can put yourself in their position, what do you think they want to see? What do you think they want to feel? That's not, yes, you're on stage, but it's not about you. It's about them.
Right.
They bought the ticket, yes, to come see you, but it's their experience that you're giving them. So I always watch the audience when the show is on. I watch them and see, that part, I love this part. I'm going to see how they love it. And then that's how I kind of govern the show, whether it's going well or where we need to pick up or like keep going on that part. It's amazing. So just try and put yourself in the receiver's position and see how they might feel from your show. And then if you are lucky enough, and I think it is lucky when you do get to have other directors and other creators or other artists even, like listen to what they have to say. You don't have to take it all in, but if someone else has a different perspective you might not think of, like, great, take it. Always listen, always ask the questions, be open to it all. And, whether you take 1%, 100% or 0 of that conversation, why not? It's free to listen.
Right. It's free. It's free advice.
Anyway.
That's fantastic advice. Amazing. Listen, Ash, thanks for I know you're in New Zealand. I know that you're in the middle of like doing everything and you're so busy. I really appreciate you spending the time. It's been lovely to chat with you.
So honored you called. I'm so honored you asked. This is so beautiful. I love this. So nice to chat to you. And I'm going to see you soon. I know I will.
And let's talk.
Get your heart out.
Yes, but let's talk after you open, because I think that would be. I'd love to know kind of how it all goes.
Of course, let's do it.
Magicians only.
Thank you, Ash, for that amazing conversation. I do hope you got a lot out of it. She is incredibly creative and hardworking and diligent, and she deserves every success. And hopefully, hey, you saw it here first. I might end up going over there and doing a little Cirque Alice. Check it out online. The images are and the footage. It's just sensational. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And I would love to be part of that. This is the thing, right? We have our own shows and the things that we do. And then there are those experiences that come along once in a while where you just say, I've got to give that a go, like dating. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Magicians Only. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget that this show, this entire podcast, is sponsored by Magic on the Go for a very good reason. I mean, I actually think with the holidays coming up, that Magic on the Go is a perfect gift for anyone who loves magic, not just professional magic. Listen, if you know a magician and he's been doing the same act forever, maybe buy them Magic on the Go. Give them an annual subscription so they can really immerse themselves and soak up all the content, because it's always changing. We're always adding new material, and now more than ever, I'm starting to incorporate more ideas from the members who have really great ideas. And so we're incorporating that into the school as well. So it's an ongoing education, but it's a fun ongoing education. And if you're the kind of person who does magic because you love it, this is for you. If you're the kind of person who does magic because you want to know 5 tricks and make a living, it's not for you. Trust me, you don't deserve the material that's on this site. This is for people who appreciate magic and understand the art form and the craft and want to grow and want to just be all-round magicians. There was a guy back in the early 1900s who called Alexander Herman, and he was what you would think of as a real magician. He would turn up in cities to do his shows. The second he would arrive, he was in character. He was performing magic. He was in stalls, market stalls, borrowing somebody's orange, breaking it open and then pulling out a diamond ring, or walking into a restaurant and literally taking someone's hat and pulling a rabbit out of it, because he knew that the persona of the magician transcends just the act that you do on stage or in close-up. He knew that he had to be at all times the great Herman, Alexander Herman. And you can learn a lot just from that man's life, because he would show up in a city and he didn't have any promo. You know, like Ash was talking about the amount of promotion and marketing they're going to be doing for Now You See Me Live, because it has to sync up with the release of the movie, not to mention the promo that they did for Cirque Alice. I mean, just so much. So if Alexander Herman only knew 3 tricks, how he wouldn't have been able to operate, walking around town, kind of improvising with the various people he meets in order to create the atmosphere, in order to create the stories, so people start talking about this magical, mystical man who's just showed up, and thereby promote interest and thereby get people to buy tickets for his live show. It's the same as I was talking to somebody recently about Hans Moretti. And if you go online and you go on YouTube and you check out Hans Moretti, I would say with the Paul Daniels show, probably the best act he ever had on the show. Hans Moretti was one of the most original performers. And if you watch his acts, whether it's Russian roulette, a sword box with just a cardboard box that he can barely fit into that has an amazing twist in the end. I won't tell you if you decide to go and search him up. Go check him out. So Hans Moretti, I was talking to somebody who was telling me that Hans used to do cruise ships. He didn't just do the acts in the theaters. He would be Hans Moretti at all times. He'd be walking in the dining room, walking around the deck, and there would be magic happening. He even structured at certain points. He even advertised certain stunts that were going to happen. Be on, the poop deck or whatever you want to call it. Be on deck 6 at 1 p.m. and you will see an amazing thing. And then he would do something where I believe he would fish for a playing card off the side of the ship, or I don't know what he did, but it was probably sensational because that's the only kind of stuff he did. But he knew what it was to continually to play the role of the magician at all times. I'm not talking about being that annoying person who goes up to everyone, can I show you a trick? Can I show you a trick? Can I show you a trick? I did that with my family when I was a kid. It got to the point where I thought my name was not today, Steve. But I'm talking about being prepared when you have a conversation to massage a trick in there, a little miracle, a little moment of mystery and wonder. I think it's really important. And the only way that you can do this, coming full circle, is if you have the knowledge and you have a knowledge base to work from, which is my whole philosophy for Magic on the Go. It would be easy to take these tricks, put them into five trick playlists and sell each as a mini course. I don't want to do that yet. What I really want to do is to give you the opportunity to swim through this content and soak up and drown in creative, swim through the content and drown with magic. That's a really bad analogy. Okay, well, listen, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I had a lot of fun talking with Ash. We are going to do it again. And my love to you all. Please spread the word. Let everyone know. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm not kidding. Right now, before we go on, do it. Hit the button. Like it. Give me 5 stars. Now subscribe. Don't just wait to check it out later on if you feel like it. Subscribe.
Step inside, the curtains drawn. The secrets of magic go on and on. With Steve Valentine, your host tonight, a master magician, the spotlight's bright. It's not just tricks, it's the art we find.